We got on the phone line, Congressman French Hill is with us. French, welcome back, sir.
Paul, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Let's just talk a little bit. I wanted to ask you first, I want to talk about taxes and some other stuff, but I want to ask you first about this trade deal, the new trade deal between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. I know your office put out a statement about it. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's good news for Arkansas, our largest trading partners for America, not just Arkansas farmers, but all of our products, goods, and services here in Arkansas are Canada and Mexico. So a new and improved NAFTA agreement is critical for everybody doing business here in this state. So I was really pleased to see President Trump complete that work over the past 2 years and have an agreement that will have better benefits for Americans.
I think a lot of people feel the same way. I mean, I know you have some advisors from the White House, saying that they feel like they kind of won the Super Bowl when it comes to, potentially this new deal. And I also know, Congress is going to have to weigh in here. They're going to have to vote for this thing, and that really raises the stakes for the midterm elections. Another thing that's on people's minds are, our tax policy. First of all, what are your thoughts on the tax cuts that have, already gone into effect and the results that we're seeing from those?
Well, I was out knocking on doors last night in Conway and came across a young man who's a contractor at his house, and he says he's never had more business. His pay is up. His hours are up. He's got more take-home pay due to lower withholding. And so that's what we hoped when we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Two things. One, that families would have more money in their own pocket to do what they want to with. Two, that it would be easier to file. And now 9 out of 10 Arkansans will be able to take the standard deduction, have a shorter, easy tax filing process every year. And finally, we wanted to make America more competitive by lowering entrepreneurial rates and corporate rates to bring money home from offshore by not double taxing American income earned outside the U.S. And that's working, too. We're seeing big investment and faster economic growth.
And so people are starting to talk, Congressman French Hill, about maybe a 2.0. Obviously, that would happen sometime, next year. But what are your thoughts on, maybe another round of tax cuts?
Well, there's areas that we've talked about in the House. We took some votes last week on it, where we make the individual tax cuts permanent for families, that we do some things that encourage savings. We have a real savings deficit in the United States, and so we've put forward some bills that will help families start saving money with tax deferral at lower amounts sooner. And then one thing I love, because I know so many retirees that complained about it back when I was a community banker, we're going to stop the required minimum distribution for IRA accounts, individual retirement accounts under $50,000 when you turn 70 and a half. And that will save people taxes and give people more control over their savings they've worked a lifetime. So I think increased savings, make those personal tax rates for our families permanent. Those would be, I think, two things to look at for early next year.
And what's amazing to me is that you have the other side essentially campaigning on, undoing all of this great work. Isn't it amazing that they're running on tax increases?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a campaign plan other than to resist Donald Trump, hate everything that he proposes, raise taxes, raise regulatory burden. These were the two reasons I actually ran for Congress back in 2013 and 14, because I'd been in business 30 years, and I saw the regulatory system and the federal bureaucracy of red tape run amok, whether you were a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, a farmer, a worker in a manufacturing plant. Everybody was suffering from the three-ring binder syndrome from Washington. Plus, tax rates were uncompetitive with other countries around the world. We were not being competitive. Those are two issues I ran on in 14. We've gotten both those things taken care of, and that's why we need to keep the momentum. And our opponents are just proposing the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. We're talking with Congressman French Hill. I talk a lot about Arkansas and skilled labor and the skilled workforce that we really need here. Here in Arkansas, in a lot of ways, we do have a skilled workforce shortage. So talk a little bit about this caucus I've heard about, the Skilled American Workforce Caucus. I understand there was a briefing recently. What can you tell us about that?
Well, you're right. We do have more jobs open than we have qualified people looking for it. We want our families to be able to pursue happiness, pursue opportunities. And one of the biggest gaps is they don't have the skills. And so this connecting skills to people around the country, I think, is one of the top challenges for our governors and for our local chambers of commerce and our local employers. So Brenda Lawrence, who's a member of Congress from Michigan, she and I started this caucus, and we highlight places around the country that we see doing it right. And one of those is BB, Arkansas. We had Sean Talent up from ASU BB, where he works with John Deere. And we are training people from 5 states at Arkansas State BB. And they come, they have a paid apprenticeship, they're getting a 2-year degree, they have the ability to get a 4-year degree, and they have a job, a highly paid, highly desired job with John Deere. And that is the kind of partnership between higher education and the private sector I think will help bring people to the workforce, get them the skills they need, and get them on track for independence and freedom of having a living, great career.
Yeah, and that is good because, a lot of times, at a higher education, that's not what we're seeing, not necessarily in higher education, building towards learning skills while you're there. And I talked to an engineer friend of mine who said, I went to school for 4 years, but I didn't actually learn the skills of being an engineer until I actually got on the job. And then you have this mentality where a lot of people think, Congressman Hill, that in order to be a success in this country, you have to have the 4-year college degree or you have to have the master's. But that's not necessarily the case, is it?
There are about 50,000 STEM-related jobs, that is science and technology and math jobs, that don't require a 4-year degree right here in metro center part of Arkansas. And look, there are 3 groups of people I think that we need to focus on with this skills trade. First of all, in our K through 12 normal education system, we need to offer a track that leads people to employment and apprenticeship and skills upon graduation if they don't want to be college-bound. We need to reward them, honor them, recognize them, just like we do our kids that enlist in the military, go to officer candidate school, or go on to college. This is important work, and it's a profitable way to have a beautiful, independent life. Secondly, we need to have people who we are letting out of prison, 10,000 a year here in Arkansas, come out on parole. We need to make sure they have the skills to get back in the workforce, get off the street, be able to pay bills, be able to have an opportunity to shift back into society. And then finally, I think, and it's an important group, are people who need to shift careers at mid-career. And I think our schools probably do a little bit better job there. But our young people and our folks shifting back into society are where we need to put an emphasis and get these people into our workforce. We desperately need them, and there are great careers out there awaiting them.
I know there's a lot of Arkansans, who enjoy the outdoors, and especially here in rural Arkansas, the beautiful landscapes out there. What can you tell us about the flat side, Bill?
Well, out in Perry County and on the Saline County border in the U.S. National Forest, Washita National Forest, there's a beautiful little wilderness area there, and the Washita National Forest, it's great for hunting, hiking, camping. The Washita National Trail that goes from Oklahoma all the way to Pinnacle Mountain and Little Rock passes through that wilderness area. So the Flatside Wilderness Bill studies some land that's owned by the Forest Service there to see if it should be included in the wilderness area because of its natural beauty, and it adds some acres that have been treated as wilderness by the Forest Service for the last 20 years. So it adds that into the Flatside Wilderness area. This is a big part of outdoor recreation, and we have a lot of people that now are loving Pinnacle Mountain to death in West Little Rock, West Pulaski County. and we want to encourage our outdoor recreational enthusiasts to head to this beautiful site out in Perry County.
Well, and I also understand that it's going to have a familiar Arkansas namesake to it. Is that right?
Yeah, look, this original place, Flatside Wilderness, was set aside back in 1984, and the congressman from Arkansas at that time was Ed Bethune from beautiful Searcy, Arkansas. He served 3 terms in the House as a Republican, fine guy. And since he was the original author of Flatside Wilderness, I proposed that additional acreage be named for Ed for all his work for Arkansas outdoor recreation, the natural state, and his devotion to conservation.
We're talking to Congressman French Hill, and I guess this I want to give you the last word, Congressman Hill, because I know we're going to talk again before the midterms here in a couple of weeks, but there is a lot going on right now, to say the least, in the country with what's going on, with the Supreme Court nomination to really just. And I was saying this earlier, ever since 2016, the Democrats, they just are in a blind rage. And yet we have President Trump, we have his policies that have done a whole lot for this country. And I don't even think a lot of people that voted for Trump, me included, realized how far we would be at this point, in his presidency. And so I think these midterm elections are really, really important. I know you would agree that, we've got to keep moving in the direction we're moving. We don't need to stop. We don't need the gridlock. I mean, there's already really enough gridlock. Look what we're going through right now. I'll give you the last word.
Well, we want to keep the country moving forward. People were tired after the Bush years and the Obama years. And President Trump has made some commitments to make our borders secure. We back him on that in the House. We want our border security. We want a reformed immigration program that encourages legal immigration of people we need in this country to work and grow our economy. We want our national security firm and sound. We want America leading again on national security issues and international security issues. President Trump has achieved that. He got the first pay increase in a decade for men and women in uniform. He's got the supplies they need. He's cut our taxes and improved our business tax system that's caused our economy to start growing over 4%. These are the things that we campaigned on for in 14, we campaigned on in 16, and we're now seeing them come to fruition. And I tell my friends in the opposition, President Trump's immigration policy of securing our border, reforming the immigration system, it dates back to the Bill Clinton days of having a secure border. Moving our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which it is, by the way, was a policy during the Clinton administration. So national security, strong. Border security, strong. Reform our economy, reduce regulations, reduce taxes, let people keep more of their money, shift power back to our states and our governors. These are the themes, and this is what President Trump is doing. This is what the House of Representatives is doing with him, and we want to keep that momentum and move forward, not backward. And the Pelosi Democrats are just talking about moving backward. And if anyone needs a motivator on keeping on track for the midterm election, the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, in charge of economic policy, in charge of sanctions, in charge of overseeing monetary policy in the Federal Reserve, a committee on which I serve and am the committee whip, that committee chairman would be Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters! That's not who we want to be the committee chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, I can assure your listeners.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine? Yeah, that would be maddening. Congressman French Hill, best of luck to you. I know you're out
all my best.
and
Thank you,
knocking
We're out on the trail.
All righty. French Hill, everybody.